welcome back. ITIYL, episode 17. I missed you guys. Hopefully some of you all have missed me. Took a bit of a break. One was planned due to Memorial Day weekend. A lot going on that week and leading up to it. So there were some things that pulled me away from the recording, at least the publishing part and the editing part of the show. So I did actually record a show Memorial Day weekend. So that's actually done, and I actually finished editing the show right before recording this show. So you're actually going to get 2 episodes this week. You're going to get the episode that I recorded the week leading up into Memorial Day weekend. Last week I actually didn't do a show, and the reason for that was there were other areas of responsibility that I had to kind of like pull me away from the show. And when I finally did post it, I had some difficulty with the web host. So basically, and you guys have heard me mention this in the past, there's actually a paid subscription to the web host. There's a free subscription, there's a paid subscription, then you have different tiers of pay. So the particular tier that I had at the time didn't allow for more than certain episodes or a certain amount of hours to be published at a time. And after a certain point, it actually just deletes the show. And it'll keep some of the later shows, but it'll delete the most recent one, which is weird to me because I feel like it should delete the older ones, but it deletes the newer ones. It basically gives it like this temporary, I believe it's a week. It puts it up there for a week, and if you don't upgrade your show, it deletes it. So I actually had got an email from them saying, hey, today's the last day. If you don't upgrade, your tier, if you don't upgrade your plan, then we're going to delete the show. And that email went into the junk folder of the show's email, the I'll Talk If You'll Listen, actually went into the junk folder because Hotmail deemed that to be not important or, feeble information, so to speak. So I didn't even realize the episode wasn't even up at first. Until one of the listeners of the show was like, hey, your show isn't on iTunes. I work with them. And it was actually my friend Dell. And if you've listened to the last week's episode before listening to this one, then you already know who Dell is. But if you're listening to this one first for some reason because you're a rebel and you don't go with the flow, you like going against the grain, and you say, I'm going to listen to 17 before 16, then you don't know who Dell is yet. But Dell is a friend of mine. I actually went to high school with him. Didn't know him in high school, but still went to high school with him. And now we end up working together some 10 years later. How crazy is that? But he said, hey, I didn't get a notification of the show. And, I was pretty excited because Dell actually shared some thoughts on last week's show. And he wrote basically a memoir, like a novel, a mini novel, so to speak, and sent it to me. And I read some of it on the show. And I was really excited for him to hear his thoughts on the show, like I always am for you all. And when I saw him, I'm like, hey, did you hear everything? Did you hear the show? He's like, no. I'm like, really? Because it's on my web host. And come to find out, it actually wasn't, because Spreaker decided to delete it because they wanted that money. They said, give me some money or else. They held my podcast hostage, guys. It was not pretty. But some good news and some updates for you all that I can't wait to share with you. And then I'm going to dive into a few topics that I'm really, really, really passionate about. We're going to talk about perception and how it affects people, especially in the inner city. We're going to talk about family and when is it too much to help family? When do you actually become a crutch for people? And, we're going to talk about how that actually affects, your children growing up. And then we're going to talk about that guy in the White House and the best football team of all time, the Philadelphia Eagles. And we're going to talk about some politics. So I can't wait to dive into these topics. But starting with the good news. So I decided to upgrade my tier plan. I actually negotiated a really cool discount, believe it or not. I didn't think I would be able to do it, but they gave me a 3-month discount. So I decided to upgrade my tier. And I just ended up emailing so I get these emails every now and again from like their media relations team. And they just basically tell me about sales and the like. And I reached out to them and say, hey, I only have one show. this is what my audience space is like. And they looked at my growth, actually. They looked at my growth from when I started till now. And, they said that's a pretty good at a good rate. I'm growing at a pretty good rate for the type of outlet that I am, for me to just be an average Joe. So they gave me a discount package on one of the tiers that they and it's a sale that they actually aren't offering right now. So they really helped me out, and I upgraded it, and bam, there you go. So I have a discounted tier, and I decided to upgrade the show. So all of my episodes will be available on Spreaker. We're talking episode 1 to episode 17. They will all be available on Spreaker. So you can actually, if you're new and you're diving in, you can go ahead and start at episode 4, or you can listen to probably my worst episode to date, episode 2. And that was my second episode, just get my feet underneath me. You can listen to that. You can listen to, episode 3, which I feel like was a really good episode. You can listen to episode 4, which I feel is an awesome, really awesome episode. So you can listen to a lot of these episodes that maybe you haven't gotten a chance to listen to, or maybe you just want to go back and listen to it just to see how far the show's come, and just to hear some of the topics that's been covered previously. So that's the good news. So all of the episodes will be up on Spreaker. I also got wind of the fact that when you pay for a certain membership, your podcast will also be distributed on Spotify. So I actually checked before I recorded this episode. It wasn't up yet. I don't know if there's a bit of a delay or if there's something I have to do. So I'm actually going to look into that on the way to work today, on how to get it on Spotify. And I know a lot of you listen to your podcast on Spotify. And you look at Spotify, and one thing about Apple Music and Spotify is it's a lot of people's one-stop shop, where they don't really like to go to different places to listen to different things. They don't want to like to go to iTunes to listen to their podcast, and then have to go to Spotify to listen to their music, and then they have to go to the YouTube to listen to, their other exclusive YouTube content. Like, they like having the fewer trips, the fewer apps, the better. So I know a lot of you have been on my back about getting the show on Spotify. And I think that's a huge step, because Spotify actually just started. They're pretty young in the podcast game. I think they just started, I want to say last year, or maybe the year before. And they're pretty young in the podcast game. So they have a pretty high and strict standard on what and whom they'll allow on that they will allow on their platform. And if I can get on that platform, that'd be awesome. So that'd be pretty cool. And then all of you guys can listen to your music and listen to your podcast, including me, on one media outlet. So that'd be pretty cool. Of course, still going to stay on Apple Music, still going to be on Stitcher, still going to be on Google Play. And again, if you listen to episode 16 before listening to this, you should know that we surpassed 500 downloads. So like I mentioned, we're going to do an ITIYL gift card giveaway, another ITIYL gift card giveaway. We did one with 300 downloads. I wanted to do one for 400, but we got to 400 so quickly. I mean, a matter of like 2 weeks. And if I kept that rate up, I would have, been dishing out gift cards like crazy. And we're not that big yet to where we can do that. Maybe in the future, but right now we're going to do it at every certain particular predefined milestone. And this time around it was 500 downloads. So the show's sitting at 581 downloads right now. So pretty big stuff. So I want to do an ITIYL gift card giveaway. This will be week 1. This is going to be a 2-week affair. Again, if you listen to episode 16, you heard me say it towards the end, but this will be the 2-week affair. So you'll have this week's episode and next week's episode to participate. All you have to do to participate is simply tell me what your favorite episode is and why. It doesn't have to be intricate. You don't have to send me a lot of information. It can be very simple. There are a few ways you can do it. I'm going to tell you how you can participate. Way number 1, the old school method. The first method, the OG method. You can email into the show. That's I'll Talk If You'll Listen. It's literally the name of the show. Doesn't matter if it's case sensitive. Emails are not case sensitive. No apostrophes. Do not include the apostrophes for the show. So it's just I'll Talk If You'll Listen at hotmail.com. You just put the subject line ITIYL gift card giveaway, And in the body of the email, just tell me what your favorite episode is and why. You can just simply say, hey, episode 13 was my favorite episode because it was the first idle thought segment. Or I really like what Charles and Ryan had to say in their interviews. You could say episode 16 was my favorite because you talked about the royal wedding. Or I really like Paige's thoughts on the particular dating topic. So it could be whatever you want. It doesn't have to be super intricate. Now, I would encourage long thought out responses because I would really like to read some of those on the show. I think it'd be pretty cool. But it doesn't have to be. Second way you can do it is on Twitter. ITIYL_ITIYL on Twitter. So it's basically the show's initials separated by an underscore. And you can get to the underscore. I don't realize how many people who aren't really techie listen to the show. So I do apologize for everyone who thinks this is common sense, but it's actually not. But you get to the underscore by pressing the shift key and then the minus key. The minus key is located right after the 0 on the QWERTY keyboard, or it's actually up and top and to the right on the number pad. But you get to the underscore specifically by pressing the key next to the 0 by just holding down shift and pressing the minus key. But so it's ITIYL_ITIYL on Twitter. You can do a few things on Twitter. You could just mention me on Twitter and just tell me what your favorite episode is and why. You can hashtag ITIYL gift card giveaway. That's ITIYL, the initials of the show, gift card giveaway, all put together. Make that your hashtag. That way, even if you don't mention me, I can at least search the gift card giveaway hashtag and make sure you get your spot, you get your entry. And finally, you can go on YouTube or you can go on Spreaker if you have a Spreaker membership and just straight up let me know what your favorite episode is and why on the comment section. And it doesn't even have to be the show that you're commenting on. So for example, on YouTube right now, there are only a couple of episodes up. What if your episode isn't listed on YouTube? That's fine. Just go to YouTube, just comment on episode whatever and just say, hey, episode 11, episode 9, episode 8. That was my favorite episode and here's why. Oh, and I'm leaving out DM. You can also DM me on Twitter. And hell, I'll even extend it to my personal Facebook. If you are my friend on Facebook and you also listen to the show, just message me on Facebook and just say, hey, this is my favorite episode and why. All media outlets are going to be available to you all. I want to make sure I get as many people as possible included into the show. So again, ITIYL gift card giveaway. This is a giveaway, not a raffle. You do not have to pay to enter. You do not have to jump through any hoops or sign up anywhere to enter. All you have to do is just do what I mentioned earlier and just contact me. Let me know what your favorite episode is and why. And I mean it, guys, from the bottom of my cold heart. I really appreciate you listening to the show. I mean, just take this average kid from Philly, no famous connections, no radio shows, no anything, and to sit here and say, I have over 500 downloads in as many months over in 5 months is crazy. To say I'm averaging a little over 100 downloads per month is crazy, and I'm so happy. And I'm extremely humbled, and I'm very grateful. So, without further ado, and not without making you all cry, I want to go ahead and dive into the topics for this week. So if you know me, especially if you've worked with me, especially at my previous job, one of my favorite sayings is perception is reality. Perception is reality. Perception is reality. And I think we overlook, especially a lot of younger people, overlook perception and the type of impact it can have on the people around you and the world around you. And a lot of people tend to just either purposefully or unknowingly they're just oblivious to the perceptions that they have. They're oblivious to, what type of things they're putting out in the world. They're being really oblivious to how people are viewing them. So I'm hoping this topic can help just shed a little light on on certain things. So we have things like social media, right? And a listener in the past, my buddy Jules, on her interview 2 episodes ago, she mentioned how she wanted to hear about social media and the type of effect that it has on us. So again, guys, I do listen. When you guys call in and interview into the Idle Thoughts segment, and at the end, I ask everybody the same question: what type of thoughts would you like to hear on future episodes? And Joel said, hey, I would like to hear you talk about social media and the type of effect that has on, our peer group and just people in general. So and that ties directly into this topic about perception. So I can't tell you how. First and foremost, let me have this disclaimer, because in today's age, you get people who are so freaking sensitive and they just want to be angry and upset about everything, that I have to make sure I clarify certain things. By no means am I telling you to change what's on your social media. I'm just going to let you know how it looks, because you might be oblivious to it, or you might feel like you don't care. Now, it's one thing to not care about something that you don't know about, that you think you do, but you really don't. For example, you might not care what people think about you, but you might be losing an opportunity on a job because you're being stubborn in your appearance, for example. But it's another thing to really actually have somebody come up to you and go, oh, I actually wanted to have you featured on the show. Or, oh, I actually wanted to have you, interview for this job. Or, oh, I actually wanted to, take you on this trip or whatever, but I didn't because of this. So again, it's one thing to have this mindset of, oh, I don't care what other people think, I'm going to be me, quote unquote. But to actually not really realize the type of impact that has, I just want to shed a little bit of light on that, because it's very relevant. And I do have some notes here to look at, because this is a topic that's like really, really, really important to me, and I'm really, really passionate about it. So just going back to Jules mentioned the effect of social media, and we post things, all types of things on our social media. And whether we realize it or not, we create a perception of who we are as a person. So I once saw a post, and I couldn't tell you from who and how long ago it was, but I once saw a post from a friend on Facebook who said that just because I post this doesn't mean that I feel this way. You don't even know me as a person. What they don't realize, the irony in that statement, is how many of us are friends with people that we haven't seen in 10 years on Facebook? How many of us, I'm friends with people I went to high school with, I haven't even seen them. Unless I'm seeing them, bumping into them, like literally. I bumped into my friend Bobby once. I bumped into my friend Warren once. Bumped into my friend Erica once, that I went to high school with. And it was just on a train. I bumped into my friend, Erica's sister, Ebony, on a train, and just out at like a cafe, like a restaurant or something. I just bumped into her, I bumped into a friend of mine. So I live in Philadelphia. There's an area outside of Philadelphia called King of Prussia. And every year they have a beer fest. And during the beer fest, there's a ton of people there. It's right in the parking lot of the mall. I actually ran into a buddy who was working one of the stands at the beer fest that I met in high school. So, there are a lot of these people that I literally have never seen in person, unless I just see them by chance, in over 10 years. In some cases over 15 if I went to middle school with them. So it's at a point where we're friends with people that we don't really even know anymore. We knew them 10 years ago. We knew who they were 10 years ago, but we don't know how they grew and changed as a person, as a parent, as someone who practices or believes in politics or religion or spirituality. We have no idea what they're involved in. Our only connection to them is social media. So I'm going to specifically use Facebook and Twitter right now. And the reason for that is those are the only 2 social media outlets that I have. I don't have a Snapbook or chat tweet, whatever the kids call it. I don't have that. I don't have Instagram. I don't have that. I'm thinking about getting an Instagram too. I actually want you guys' opinion on that. So let me know what you guys' opinion on if I should get an Instagram or not to promote the show. And I think I will. But just let me know, guys. But anyway, I don't have one yet. Just a Twitter, just a Facebook. So I'm going to be mainly focusing on those 2 things. So you'll hear Facebook and Twitter a lot, but this applies to all social media. So think about this. There are people who don't know you. There were people who weren't there for your car accident. There were people who weren't there for when you graduated college. There were people who weren't there when you got baptized. There were people who weren't there when you went on that trip to India. There were people who weren't there when you got really, really drunk and you blacked out and you woke up with that massive hangover. There are people who weren't there. So their only connection and recap and recollection of that event is whatever you decide to share on with them on social media. So if you're constantly posting things like how you're sad and depressed, you're going to worry some people. If you're constantly posting things about how you're pro-gun or pro-abortion, you're going to have a perception that that's all you're about. If you're constantly posting things about food, people are going to think you're a foodie. And the thing that really bothers me about this social media and this perception thing are the people out there who are just totally oblivious to the perception that they're putting out in the world. And when people come at them a certain way, they want to act all like wide-eyed, like, oh my God, what's going on here? Or where are you getting this thought from? I know a young lady who is, I don't know if she's ever listened to the show. I actually tried to get her onto the show. I don't know if she's ever actually listened to the show. But I know a young lady who's huge into basketball. She can run circles around a lot of the guys I know. She's really huge into basketball. Some of my friends who listen, who went to high school with me, may even know who I'm talking about. But she is super huge around. She can run circles. She is like a super sports head, but like a basketball historian. Like she's like a basketball goddess. She knows her stuff. I wish I could curse on the show. She knows her stuff. Just replace the word stuff with the word that you know I want to say. She's on top of her game. Pun definitely intended. So she'll constantly post. So she's a huge LeBron James fan, right? And she's from Philadelphia, but she's a LeBron James fan. So, of course, she's going to follow the Cavs, right? She's not going to not root for the Sixers, but she's not going to root for the Sixers either. You know what I mean? Like, she's like that neutral where, like, I'm not going to bash the Sixers, but at the same time, I'm not going to say go Sixers because I'm not really a Sixers fan, right? So there was a period in time, and maybe even now, but I haven't seen really much from her, probably because the Sixers are out of the playoffs. But there was a period of time, and I mean weeks at a time, where she would constantly criticize Sixers fans for being Sixers fans. You know, she would constantly criticize people because the Sixers have been bad for a pretty good bit. Like, one would even argue we've been bad since, you know, Allen Iverson left. But, I mean, we actually made the playoffs in 2009 season. We made the playoffs. Got knocked out of the first round by the Orlando Magic, but we made the playoffs. But since then, like, we've been horrible. You know, we've been tanking. We've had, like, one season, I think it was like two or three seasons ago, had like 10 wins. Mind you, there's like 82 games in the season. We won 10 of them. You know, so, you know, imagine trying to cook dinner 82 times and 72 times you burn the house down. Like, that's how bad the Sixers were. But this year they were really, really good, and they actually made it to the second round of the playoffs. And we have some superstars, some potential superstars on our team. And there were a lot of people happy about that. You know, there are a lot of people who are like, hey, I'm glad the Sixers are really doing well right now. And I was one of them. I mean, anyone who knows me personally knows I'm really into sports as a science. Like, I love sports, but my favorite sport and the only sport that I follow is football. So, and I'm a Philadelphia fan. I want the Flyers to do well. I want the Phillies to do well. I want the Sixers to do well. Hell, I want the Soul to do well. I don't even know what their record is. I may not even watch a game, but being from Philadelphia and being a sports fan, I want my hometown teams to do well. Even if I'm not necessarily quote unquote a Phillies fan or a Sixers fan or a Flyers fan, I still want the team to do well. So there are people out there who were like that when the Sixers did well, and she got up on social media and just bashing Sixers fans. Oh, y'all want to be fans now. Oh, y'all want to be where were y'all when the Sixers had 10 wins? Yada, 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 yada. And like almost every post was like that. So take somebody who doesn't deal with her, who doesn't know her personally, who doesn't work with her, who doesn't see her on a daily basis. Hell, even if you're the local guy at the grocery store or the local guy at the Dunkin' Donuts that she goes into every day and you see her every day, that person knows her better than, let's say, I would, because I've known her for over 10 years, but I went to high school with her, hung out a few times with her after high school, and that's it. Like, so my only connection to her is via Facebook. So if I see her constantly posting these things about Philadelphia Sixers fans, imagine what that does to my perception. My thing is, here's the biggest thing that bothered me. If you post stuff like that and you know what the perception is that you're creating and you're okay with it, that's one thing. But if you post stuff like that and you create this perception and people come up at you about this perception and you act surprised, that's where my issue is. When you're totally ignorant of the perception that you're putting out there into the world, and you're just sitting there like, oh my God, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? That's the part of it that like actually bothers me. So here's another example. I knew another young lady who is like, she constantly posts about how guys, and mind you, she's not using the word guys, but I'm going to have to say guys, but she's constantly saying how guys aren't crap. Like how guys aren't good. Like there are no good men out here. And they're constantly full of crap. And she can't find a good guy to save her life. And all they want is sex. That's her. All they want is sex. There aren't any good men. All they want is sex. All they want is sex. All they want is sex. So you kind of look at that and you go, of course, the bitter women, the bitter friends that she has that like are her friends on Facebook, of course they're going to agree with her, right? Because they're living the same lifestyle. But you take somebody who doesn't live that lifestyle and maybe in a very happy and successful relationship, they're going to look at that and go, wow, why can't you find peace? Why can't you find a good person? What's going on there, right? To whereas the bitter people are going, you're right, men aren't crap. Men aren't worth it. Men aren't worth, the shoes that they're wearing. Men aren't worth that. And they're agreeing with her. But again, the perception that she's putting out there is that there aren't any good men and she can't find any. But I lie to you not, every single last post or picture or selfie that she posts is of a sexual connotation. She's wearing revealing clothing. She's wearing tight clothing. She's posing sexually. She'll make a sexual post or status update. Now, again, let me make a disclaimer because first and foremost, let me throw this out here. First and foremost, this is not for the victims. If you're a victim and you think nothing is your fault and you're going to sit here and disagree with everything I have to say, one, I would love to hear your thoughts. Hell, I would love to even have you on the show. We can debate it out. But two, stop listening. This isn't for you. This is for the person who wants to grow and learn and figure out how they can improve themselves. This is not for the person who can do no wrong, who is Mrs. or Mr. Victim, it's everybody's fault but theirs. This isn't for you. Stop listening. I'm talking about you, but I'm not talking to you because you can do no wrong. You don't fit the description, right? That's not you. It's not your fault you didn't get that job. The manager was racist. So who am I to tell you that you need to look in the mirror instead of looking out the window? I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about you. You can stick around for that if you want to, but I'm not talking to you. But going back to this young lady, she posts, these sexual things. And first and foremost, that's her right. Let me be clear about this. Okay. I don't want to paint the wrong picture here. Talk about perception. Let me be clear about this. That's her right. She can do that if she wants to. That's her right to post, whatever she wants to post. And it's her Facebook. I don't run her Facebook. It's her Facebook. But my point being is, think about the perception you're putting out there. Think about this. 1 minute you're sitting here complaining about how you can't find a good man and all they want is sex. But when you post pictures or you post status updates and they're about sex, think about the perception you're putting out there. Now, it's okay to be comfortable with your sexuality. And I despise the argument that women can't be open with their sexuality, otherwise they're hoes or sluts. I don't like that narrative. I actually respect and admire a woman who just wants sex and who can just put that out there, and that's great. But it's one thing to just want sex and then get a guy who only wants sex and you don't complain about it because that's all you wanted in the first place. But it's another thing to be open with your sexuality and then post on social media about how guys all they want is sex, but then you turn around posting sexual things. Like it just, I hope you guys see the hypocrisy in that. You can't sit here and say how, woe is me, I don't have a job, I need a job, I need a job, I need a job. And when people are hitting you up like, oh man, look, I saw your post, here's some extra money to help you out. And you look at them like, oh, I don't need your money, I don't need your help. That person's going to be confused as hell. They're going to be like, well, wait a minute here. I'm seeing your post on Facebook. And again, let me backtrack a bit just to clarify to people who missed the point. The point is, this is the only connection that someone has to you. They do not communicate with you on a daily basis. They do not text you. They do not talk to you. They're just your friend or associate on Facebook. That's it. So when they constantly see, let's say I was a slob. Let's say I was a knucklehead. Let's say I was just looking for the next conquest of a woman, and I'm just like trying to add another notch on my belt. And I see you on social media posting up all these pictures, revealing clothing, tight clothing, you bending over, you got your tongue out, you got a tongue ring, and you're doing all these things, and you're being very provocative and very promiscuous, and you post these statuses and these memes about how badly you want sex. And I'm just looking for another conquest. I'm sliding in your DM. I'm trying to see what's going on with that. I'm trying to get in your pants. That's what I'm trying to do. You can't turn around and say how, oh, guys aren't crap and, how all they want is sex. Well, yeah, because you told me that's all you want too. So you got to be aware. There's this other young lady on Twitter that I'm good friends with, and I actually used to hang out with a lot. So when I saw her post the way she posted on Twitter, and when I hung out with her often, it was just kind of like, hey, it's like night and day, because she's not like that in person. You know what I mean? Or at least she's choosing not to let me see that side of her. But on Twitter, she was very provocative. I mean, like, she would say some stuff that like was really over the top that should be censored, right? And I used to just think to myself, like, look at the message you're putting out there. Look at the perception you're creating. Now, again, if you're okay with that perception, that's your right. But I think it's very, very dangerous for us to be ignorant of the perception that we're putting out there. Another person out there is the type of person who goes, oh, I don't need this job. Screw this job. I'm a gift to this job. This job needs me. Or I'm a walking blessing to this job. Yada, 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 yada. To that person, you don't realize that the perception you're creating to the people around you is that, one, A, that you're better than them, but B, you never know who you could be talking to. That person potentially could be your supervisor eventually. That person, maybe years from now, you could end up working for or working with. Think about that. Let's say you work with somebody for 10 years ago, and they were a horrible worker. They complained about everything. They were the victim. Everything else was their fault as to why they couldn't get their work done. They were poor at time management. They were poor at communication skills. They couldn't take feedback that saved their lives. Like, every time you tried to give them constructive criticism, they turned around and snapped or got super defensive. And let's say 10 years go by and you start your own company, or let's say 10 years go by and you're the manager of another company, and guess who comes walking through your door to apply for your job? Think about that. So I just really want to encourage you all to think about the perception that you put out there. Just think about that. Think about, what do you do to perpetuate the circumstances that you're in? If people think you're a loner and you don't want to go out when they go out, why do they think that? If people think that you don't want to come to a game night or to a guy's night out or to a girl's night out, why do they think that? If people think that you're lonely and depressed all the time, why do they think that? If people think that you're bitter and that, you can't find a good relationship to save your life, why do they think that? There's definitely an argument to be made in people's perception and why they feel that way. Perception is reality. It really is. And I think we just need to take more of a proactive approach into understanding why. I mean, there's people out there. How many of us know somebody who they constantly complain at work? They're constantly late. They don't do their job. They're very unproductive, but they'll sit there and complain about how much money they make, or they'll sit there and complain about how little their raise was, or they'll sit there and complain about how, they aren't getting any promotion opportunities. And you're sitting there thinking, like, you may not want to be that person to tell them, like, Well, why should they promote you? And then they'll sit there and list normal, average, run-of-the-mill reasons because I do my work. Well, you're supposed to. That's like you working for public transportation and you're driving the bus for 5 years and you're complaining that you haven't been offered a promotion. And it's like, okay, well, why should you get that promotion? Oh, because I wake up, I'm on time, I drive the bus, I pick up passengers, I drop them off, and I go home. Well, you're supposed to do that. They're already paying you for that. Why should they pay you more for something you're already doing? They're already paying you to do that. You know what I mean? Like how many of us know somebody like that? And we need to be the friends to check them because they aren't getting checked by somebody else. Me personally, I'll keep my mouth shut depending on my relationship with the person. So let's just take those examples I use on social media, for example, like those people who post all types of things on social media. I'm not close enough to them to feel like I have a right to go up to them and say, hey, look, you need to calm down a bit. This is the message you're putting out there. But if you know somebody like that and you're close enough to them to tell them like, hey, you need to be careful. This is the perception you're creating. You need to tell them that because they might genuinely not know, or they might be in they might be ignorant and be in the fact that like, oh, I'm going to be who I'm going to be. I'm not going to be fake. You need to ask them, why do they feel like adjusting to their situation is being fake? What does that even mean? Like people have like, oh, I ain't being fake. I ain't being fake for nobody. I'm going to be who I'm going to be. Okay, I get that. But why do you feel like being professional is being fake? Why do you associate with that? Why do you associate maybe, going to church is, and being spiritual as being fake? Why do you associate with, hanging out with certain people being fake? What is that? Why can't that just be another extension of yourself? For example, I'm a huge gamer. I love playing video games. And I feel like that's who I am as a person. I'm always going to love video games. Does that mean that if I choose not to play a video game and choose to watch a movie, I'm being fake to myself? No, it just means I'm exploring another area of myself. If you aren't grammatically correct and your sentences are all jacked up and your vocabulary is very limited and all jacked up in the neighborhood and when you're hanging out with your friends and you use things like double negatives and things like ain't and words that don't exist like I'ma. And if you don't know what I'ma is, it's like I'm about to go do something or I'ma be mad. I'ma. That's not a word, but you're saying it around your friends. Fine. You're comfortable. You can do that. That's fine. Be you. But why is it that when you aren't using those words in a professional environment, you're fake now? So I'm talking to my friends and I'm saying John and I'm saying cuz and I'm saying bruh and I'm saying ain't with my friends. And then when I'm getting work and I'm saying because and shouldn't and instead of ain't, I'm saying not, things like that. I'm being fake now? No, I'm just understanding my environment and being around my environment. So again, we as friends, I think we're obligated to check our friends and let them know like, hey, look, you need to realize like, hey, you ain't got to change if you don't want to, but you need to understand that you're creating a certain circumstance for the situation that you're in. And that's important. I mean, we earlier in the conversation, I said I was going to talk about family. Family is the same way. There's family out here that, they're constantly mismanaging their money. They create the perception that they're irresponsible. So when they come to you and ask you to borrow money, you're going to have second thoughts about that. No, if you're coming to me constantly asking me to borrow money, my perception of you is that you're irresponsible and you can't do it. So that's really important, the perception that we're putting out there. And we need to be very, very aware of the perception that we're putting out there. And speaking of family, I was in an Uber yesterday on the way to work. And speaking of not being professional, my Uber, you ever see somebody with like a ratchet name or ghetto name? And let's be real, if your name is ratchet or ghetto, it is. Like, don't give me that crap like, oh, it's no such thing. It is. I might get some people mad, but if your name is Lakedra, LaShantea, Brianiqua, Obama Nate, your name. If your name is ratchet, you do. And I'm gonna admit this, and a lot of people probably won't admit this, but I like being honest with you guys, and I'm gonna keep it real. when I see a name, I make a judgment initially. I do, because it gives me a little bit of perception of the person and at least the environment that they grew up with. A lot of people say don't judge a book by a cover, or that's wrong. I feel like it's survival of the fittest. Sometimes you have to. If you're walking down the street and you see a group of guys approaching you and it's dark out and it's like 1:30 in the morning, you're not going to say to yourself, oh, you know what? These probably are upstanding gentlemen. Let me not judge a book by its cover. No, you probably going to walk that ass across the street. You're going to be like, oh man, you know what? These guys are probably up to no good, and they could just be walking to the store. You have no idea. But you can't, that phrase, don't judge a book by its cover, I think should only apply to certain situations. Like, for example, if, you see somebody wearing the same clothes that they wore yesterday, don't judge a book by its cover. You don't know what their situation was. You know what I mean? Like, you don't know if they went home last night. You don't know if they had to go to a hospital in an emergency room, and then they end up going straight to work, straight from the emergency room. They spent the night in the emergency room with a family member or something like that. I think don't judge a book by its cover should apply to certain situations like that. But saying stuff like, oh, if a person comes to a job interview with a dingy t-shirt, some ripped jeans, and some boots, don't judge a book by its cover. That's probably all they can afford. No, I am going to judge a book by its cover, because you know what you got on, just like I know what you got on. Because I can't tell you how many interviews I did have like that, with a person coming in, the first words out their mouths was, I'm sorry, I'm dressed like this, and they give me some half behind excuse as to why they're dressed that way. So before you sit there and say don't judge a book by its cover, you need to look at the context. So I don't make judgments on the person as far as who they are character wise, but I do make judgments as far as like where they're from and what their behavior may be. Because let's keep it real. If the person is from like a suburb, and they've gone to private schools, and they grew up in, they had they're well off, they have a really good, upbringing, and then they have a daughter or a son, they're not going to name their son Obamaniqua or their daughter Obamaniqua. They're not going to do that. Just because they're just not going to do that. Regardless of the reason, we can talk about that later. They're just not going to do that. So this young lady, I forget what her name was, but it was Ratchet. And I looked at it and I'm like, I actually say to myself, please don't be Ratchet. Because I hate when that perception is proven right, if that makes sense. Like, I hate when you do come, like, because there's some people out there who do judge the person's character based off of their name. I don't. I make certain educated guesses of what their life experience may have been. So when I see their name and I see that it is like an Obamaniqua or a Lakedra or something like that, I make an assumption on maybe what their environment was like, or maybe what part of the city they grew up in, or the type of environment they grew up in, things like that. But I don't make a judgment call on their character. Oh, this person's probably always late to work, or this person is probably always broke, or this person probably, does drugs or something like that. Like, I don't make those type of judgment calls. But, there's certain people out there who do. And I hate when that perception is proven right. Like, how many of us watch the news, right? And just speaking to like my black audience, and like how many of us watch the news and like it'll be like a liquor store was robbed at gunpoint, and the person left his ID there, or something. It's something stupid, like a real petty, stupid crime. And the whole time before they show the mugshot, you're like, please don't be black, please don't be black, please don't be black. And they show that it was Zamir Jenkins out of North Philly. You're like, damn it, Zamir. You're just like, damn, why'd you prove that perception? Because as a black person that all black people aren't like that. But white people who don't, or other people who aren't black, Asians, Hispanics, whomever, who don't live in that environment. Like, how many of us know somebody who didn't grow up in Philly, so they think all of Philly is like North Philly, or all of Philly is like West Philly, not realizing that North Philly isn't even like North Philly even more, with Temple buying everything. And West Philly and Southwest Philly isn't like what West Philly and Southwest Philly used to be like, with UPenn and Drexel, buying up everything. So these colleges are owning some of the parts of the city that used to be bad, and they're like turning them around, right? So So the when that perception gets proven right, I hate it. So when I saw my Uber driver's name, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, please don't prove the perception that comes with your name right. You know what I mean? Like, you have that hope. Like, I once came across a young lady whose name was Jakisha, but she was very well spoken, very well educated, had 2 degrees, had a really good job, making like $80K a year. She was in the pharmaceutical field, and then on paper you see that you're like, oh, Jakisha, she might be like super ghetto. So I like that fact that she proved that perception wrong. So I look at my Uber driver's name, and I get in the car, and I'm like, please don't be ratchet, please don't be ratchet, please don't be ratchet. And like, some guy calls her. I don't know what this guy's relationship is, but some guy calls her, and he's trying to get to work. And he's like, yo, you got the money? You got the money? I'm about to leave out and catch the bus now. You got the money? And I'm like, oh, well, that's strike one. And she's like, no, I ain't got the money. My account is negative right now. The money ain't get deposited yet. Call Mumu up and have Mumu, transfer you the money. See if you can hold the money from Mumu. And I'm like, I don't know this person's situation. Let me just sit back and get to work. Let me just sit. Let me go on my phone or whatever. But you know how, like, you try not to be nosy and like you can't help it because the conversation is so obnoxious that you gotta listen. So that's kind of like what it was. So my first thought to myself was, okay, she's proving a few stereotypes right now. She knows somebody named Mumu. I mean, I got a cousin named Mumu. So it is what it is. I'm like, okay, she knows somebody named Mumu. She ain't got the, whatever. I don't know her situation. So the guy's like, oh, she ain't got it. So I'm thinking like, oh man, this might be like a significant amount of money that this guy's asking for, right? So she's like, all right, let me call her. So she hangs up the phone with the guy. She calls Mumu, and Mumu's like, she answered the phone real mad, like she already knew what was coming, right? So my Uber driver's like, can you help? And I forget what the guy's name is. She's like, can you help him out and give him the money until I'll give it right back to you? And then she's like, no, I'm tired of helping him. He need to be accountable. I'm tired of just giving him money. I don't have the money to just give him. So, they have a little argument. She hangs up the phone, and then she calls him back and said, look, I don't know what to tell you. She ain't got it. Let me call so-and-so. So she called somebody else who already was familiar with the situation, and she was like, no. So my Uber driver goes, get this, y'all. This is the kicker. My Uber driver goes, you ain't got $2 to give to him. I'll give it right back to you. I was like, all this commotion isn't over $2. No, it's not. It's not. It's not over 2 pieces of paper with our first president on it. It's not. It's not over 2 Georges. It's not over 2 Yanks. It's not over 2 Bones. It's not over 2 singles. It's not over a car fare to get on a bus. It's literally $2. I'm like, are you kidding me? Seriously? You're calling up 3 people to ask to borrow $2? First of all, one person ain't got it, which, translation, I don't want to give it to you. Some people had that problem with telling family no. They rather just lie and say they ain't got it rather than saying no, I'm not giving it to you. I've done that to family before, and they got mad at me. But it is what it is. If you're going to get mad at me because I don't want to give you my money, that's your personal problem. Then you got this other person who's saying like, no, they need to. I agree with Mumu. Go ahead, Mumu. Tell her he needs some responsibility. Apparently this is a consistent thing with this guy. What I got from this conversation. Hey, here's another thing. Speaking of professionalism, I should have known none of this. It should have been, hey, I'm in an Uber right now. I will call you back. Or it should have at least been the phone taken off the speaker. She had it coming through the car, like the car speakers. So I knew all of their information, like all of it. So, and now I'm sharing it with you all. Good thing I don't know these people's names. So anyway, some of you might know them. How crazy would it be if they're listeners? And they're like, you know what? I had somebody in my Uber yesterday, and that sounded like exactly like the conversation I had. But anyway, odds of that, some to none. But anyway, So I agree with Mumu. Mumu's like, he needs accountability, responsibility. And, you know, it just made me crazy. Like, first of all, you're telling this other person that you're going to give it right back to them. No, you're not, because you just told Mumu that you didn't have it. Your account balance was in the negative. So you're not going, and that's so crazy. Like all these, I'm listening to, now mind you, you know how you only normally hear like one side of the story? Like let's say you sitting on the side of the phone, you only hear one person, you don't hear what the other person's saying, or maybe something happened and your friend comes back and tells you what happened, but it's just their side of the story. You don't actually hear like the whole thing. I heard everybody's side of the story. So my Uber driver is sitting here telling one person that, she ain't got it. Her account balance is in the negative. And then she calls somebody else and tell them that she's going to give it right back to him. Like, no, you're not. You don't have it to give right back to him. So why would you even say that? That's crazy to me. So it got me to thinking about family and the values we put on family and how it affects even our kids. Because we put this value on family where we feel like we got to do any and everything for them because that's what makes family family. And it got me to thinking, like, at what point do you become someone's crutch? Like me personally, growing up, when my father was still alive, I would say that I'm a family person. I love my cousins, I love my aunts and my uncles, and I love being around them. And we did almost everything together. We're talking like stay up late. We're talking like play video games. We're talking about even walking to the store. Like the store was like a mile out, and we would just get on our bikes and just walk. And I was like, I love doing everything with them. We were super, super close. After my father passed away, and especially now after my mother has passed away, I'm not a family person. I'm not, I love my family still, but I'm not a family person. I'm not like that do or die family person. So growing up, my family was my friends. Like my friends became my family. Like I have people who are closer to me than my actual blood is, blood type does not determine closeness. You know what I mean? And I once had a really close friend who looked at me some kind of way because I'll stop letting him like borrow money. Whenever he needed money, he would come to me, and it wouldn't be large amounts of money. It would be smaller amounts of money. Like we're talking like $20, But after a while, I'm like, no. And he's like, oh, why you ain't got it? I remember one time we had a conversation. He's like, well, why you ain't got it? And I was like, no, I have it. I just don't want to give it to you. And we had to have a very mature conversation. And I respect him because at the time he got mad at me. He said, oh, that's messed up. I'm your homie. You're supposed to be my friend. We supposed to be bros. You changed, blah, 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 blah. And then like, a couple months later after he cooled down, he ended up hitting me back up. I'm thinking he wants something. He like, hey, look, man, I just wanted to reach out to you and apologize and say, look, I'm sorry. What I didn't realize was, you were actually hurting me by constantly helping me. And you were putting your foot down because you were actually truly trying to help me by telling me no. Because in the back of my mind, I knew I could always come to you. And that let me know I didn't have to put 110% into saving money because I knew at the back of my mind I could just always go to you. And it got me thinking about family. Like how many of our family members are like that? How many of our friends are like that? Where we become a crutch to them because they know in the back of my mind, I could always lean on you. In the back of my mind, I know you can always give me a ride to work. You can always give me a ride when I'm in a pinch. In the back of my mind, you can always give me money for the light bill or the groceries. In the back of my mind, you can always watch my kids because I'm a poor planner and I'm unprepared. And I feel like I don't need to be because you there. So my message to everybody listening is like, hey, look, don't be somebody's crutch. And if you do that to somebody else, you need to wake up and realize that you're not treating them. That's not respectful. You're not treating them right. You're not treating them well. That's disrespectful. If you truly love them, you won't put them in that situation because it's a tough situation to be in. Think about that. If you love somebody and someone's questioning your love and your commitment to them because you won't give them something material. You love this person. You would die for this person, but they just turn around and told you that you don't love them because you wouldn't let them borrow $20. That's hurtful. It really is. So just don't be like that. Sometimes people legitimately just can't do things for you. And you need to be understanding of that. And, sometimes somebody just maybe flat out just doesn't want to do something at the moment. That doesn't mean that they don't love you. It doesn't mean that they don't care about you. It's their time, just like it's your time. Like we're talking about like telling small lies earlier. Look, if you don't want to go out, if you don't want to call somebody back, tell them that. Tell them that, because otherwise they're going to start taking it personal. I know this one young lady, she never gets back with me ever. I'll call her and I'll say, hey, call me later, or hey, let's talk about this, or hey, I'm doing this event, you're invited. And she'll just straight up not even talk to me. She won't follow up with me at all. And quite honestly, I'm starting to take it personal. You know what I mean? But like, just be honest. Look, I don't feel like going. I'm tired. Don't hit me with the whole, oh, I got this to do. I don't feel like going. I'm tired. I don't really feel like being around a lot of people. You know, like, that's okay to say. That's your right. And if the person gets mad at you, whatever, at least you were honest. At least you can say you were honest. I'd rather have somebody get mad at me because I'm being honest than somebody get mad at me because like I'm like intentionally lying to them. You know what I mean? It's just not a good look. So just reach out to me, guys. I would really like to hear you guys' opinion. I'll talk if you'll listen at hotmail.com if you're newer to the show. ITIYL _ITIYL on Twitter. Of course, you can sign up for a Spreaker membership and follow me on there and leave comments on there. So speaking of lying intentionally, this past week, it was a scheduled visit to the White House for the world champion Philadelphia Eagles, who beat the New England Patriots, just as a reminder to everybody. And my buddy Ryan's a huge New England Patriots fan, so not to remind you, brother, but it's forever etched in history. So you're going to hear it, if not from me, from somebody else. And you live in Philly, man. Come on. But anyway, they had a scheduled visit to the White House this week. And I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this. I mean, I'm the type of person, I feel like if you really want to know, you're not going to listen to me about it. You're going to go and find out on your own. So I'm going to paraphrase a lot of this. And we're running late on time. And, I want to get this message out here before the show ends. But so long story short, there are a lot of Eagles players who don't agree with the person in the White House, our current president, and they disagree with a lot of his thoughts, behaviors, and they disagree with just the government in general on a lot of the stances out there on certain things like protesting, on certain things about criminal justice reform, about certain things about charity. They disagree. So they already made the conscious decision to not go to the White House. But the coach, the team owner, the president, they all put the executive VP of football operations, they all put it on the team to decide on what they wanted to do as a team. They wanted to make it be a team decision. And they say, hey, look, go if you want to. You don't have to go if you don't want to. Go if you want to. And, a small contingent of players decided that, like, hey, we'll go. And my guess is because of the type of arrogant person that is in the White House right now, he got offended. How many of us know that, like, maybe back in high school or even now, the super popular jock guy who's super arrogant and just expects people to come to his party when he invites them? That's the type of person we have in our White House. And I think, honestly, in my opinion, he got offended that only a small group of people wanted to come and not like a large amount of people wanted to come, like not the full team. He got offended. So he was like, no, they're uninvited. They can't come anymore. So he put out this like false narrative. He issued this statement basically saying that the Eagles canceled and not them, and basically saying that only a small group of people were going to come, and it was smaller than the number that they had initially promised. And then they tried to cancel and reschedule. So the White House just said, no, we already penciled out this time frame. If you can't come, we're just going to repurpose the event. That's not true. That's not what happened. He just got upset like, oh, only 10 of y'all coming? Well, never mind. Maybe even less than 10. I heard that too. Maybe even less than 10 people. Oh, only 10 of y'all coming? Oh, well, never mind. Y'all can't come anyway. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like planning for this big, huge party. You invited 50 people. Only 2 people said they can make it. And then never mind, y'all. I can't do it no more. You know what I mean? And then you try to blame other them when you're talking to other people like, oh, yeah, all these other people, they said they were going to come and then they couldn't come. So I just decided not to have it. No, it's just those people didn't want to come. You know what I mean? So he put this false narrative out there about them not wanting to come or whatever the case may be. Of course, it was trending on Twitter. So I did what any millennial would do. And I rushed to Twitter. And I looked at some of the hashtags and some of the, the reply strings on a lot of different things. And there were a lot of people out there positive, who, were really positive about the Eagles' response and the Eagles' demeanor. And they were like, hey, look, let me backtrack a little bit. Trump tweeted, he tweeted the false narrative of that we chose to stay in the locker room for the national anthem. We protested the national anthem by staying in the locker room and kneeling during the national anthem. First and foremost, no Philadelphia Eagle player kneeled during the national anthem. First and foremost. Secondly, no player protested by being in the locker room during the national anthem. That's that other Pennsylvania team, the Pittsburgh Steelers. We didn't do that. The closest thing we got to protesting during the national anthem was our safety, Malcolm Jenkins, raising his fist. He made a fist during the national anthem, as well as some other players raised a fist. And other players actually put their arm around the players holding a fist up just to show their support. Like, hey, I'm not going to put a fist up, but I'm going to put my arm around you just to show support, right? So, and a lot of these players are like really big into the community. Malcolm Jenkins even made a trip to the capital, the state's capital, and even had discussions with the mayor on things that we can do, and even the Philadelphia police commissioner on what we can do to prevent certain things within the Black community and within urban environments just in general, to prevent people going to prison for reasons they shouldn't have to, or people going to prison unnecessarily for situations that could have been avoided. But of course, that guy in the White House tried to paint this perception of the Eagles players are knuckleheads. They're protesting against the national anthem and they're protesting against the military. First and foremost, I just want to let you know that although they relate, the military, the national anthem, and the flag all relate to each other, but are all separate things. The national anthem was actually written to inspire our military troops, not to honor our military troops. Our national anthem was written, I believe, even actually after we became a country in 1776. It was written to inspire our troops, to give our troops hope, not in honor of our troops. So if you're protesting the national anthem and what it means for you, you can still have love for the military. So there are certain people out there that are saying you should stand for the national anthem. Ask these people why. Ask these people why. Listen to their answer. I guarantee you they don't give a good one. They don't give a good one. So, same thing with the American flag. The American flag means something different. So what it represents isn't debatable. It's a fact. The American flag represents America, the United States of America, as a country. You can't debate that. It does. But what it means to you is totally subjective. It's whatever you want it to mean. It's whatever you need it to mean to you. What it represents, non-debatable. What it means to you, totally subjective. Your opinion, your right. So if I want to kneel to protest the flag, I can do that because that's my right. And for all the people out here that are saying like it's disrespectful to the military, one, you're making no sense. Two, it's actually an honor to the military because the military goes out and fights for our freedoms and to preserve our rights as citizens. To preserve our rights as citizens, and one of our rights as citizens is to be able to kneel and protest during the national anthem. That's my right. They're fighting for my right to do that. So when you're saying it's disrespectful to them, it's actually an honor of them because I'm letting them know I'm taking advantage and I'm embracing the rights that you allow me. Not allow me, but I'm embracing the rights and I'm taking advantage of all my benefits as a citizen that you're going out to preserve for me, that you're going out to shed blood and tears for me. But yeah, that's their right. The military is preserving the rights that we have afforded to us. So it's an honor of the military, if anything. It's far from disrespectful. So my question to everybody out there who feels as though kneeling during the national anthem is disrespectful, my question to you is why? My question to you is why? And I would love to maybe even have you on the show. If you disagree, we can debate it on the show. I would love to have you on. My question to you is why? Why is it disrespectful? Why do you feel that way? More specifically, what does it mean to you? What does the flag mean to you? Now, if you think someone's being disrespectful to your idea of something, that's one thing. But to sit here and say, that's like you saying that you're disrespecting somebody else. Let that person speak for them. Like if the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, Air Force, National Guard, or rather Coast Guard, came out and said, their spokesperson or whatever came out and said, like, kneeling towards the national anthem during the national anthem is disrespectful to us as an organization. Then, yeah, okay, now you can sit here and say, okay, they've openly said that it's disrespectful. But how are you going to sit here and put words in somebody else's mouth and say, oh, it's disrespectful to them? No. I went on Twitter, and just to go back to earlier what I was saying, I went on Twitter and I'm looking at a lot of different strings and responses, and there were a lot of active duty and retired military veterans who sit there and said, no, this isn't disrespectful at all. I think it's awesome that they feel like they can express their rights. And then you have a lot of people just sitting there saying, oh no, it's disrespectful to our flag, yada 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 yada. It's like you aren't listening. You don't even care why they're doing it. You're just sitting here saying, like, oh, it's disrespectful that they're doing it. It's just like, hey, find a peaceful way to protest, and then we take a kneel during the national anthem. Not like that. Well, make up your mind, okay? So I would love to hear you guys' thoughts. Feel free to email into the show, to tweet at the show, or follow me on Spreaker and look for all of the episodes to go up shortly. I'll try to buckle down and do all of it over the weekend. One last bit of information for you all, then I'll let you all go. I know I've kept you for a bit. The YouTube page. The YouTube page, I actually have a really cool idea for it, and I'm going to hash out some details before I announce it, but I'm still going to upload the episodes to YouTube just for the people who don't have access to the various outlets like Google Play or iTunes or eventually Spotify or Stitcher or Spreaker, and you use YouTube for all of your media needs. I'm still going to put the shows up on YouTube, but I thought it's something really, really cool that I can do on my own time that I'm really looking forward to doing a couple times a month that I'm going to put on the YouTube page just to encourage traffic towards the YouTube page. So that's cool. Also, an upcoming segment, guys. I'm going to have a segment where I dedicate it to businesses and organizations of my peers. If you take a look at all of these bigwig executives who've been making money and who've been in executive positions for years, or who've been entrepreneurs or owners for years, they all know each other. The John Maxwells know the Ty Lopez's and et cetera, et cetera. In some cases, they even grew up together, right? I want to start that now. I want to sit here and say, when you guys have your own businesses or you're an executive leader, you're in a leadership role at a huge company, a huge firm, I want to sit here and say that, I knew you from the beginning, and I want to sit here and say that I supported you from the beginning, and I want you to feel like you had the support from the beginning. So I'm going to come up with a segment for my peer group who have things that they're involved in, whether it be media companies, whether it be nonprofit organizations, or whether it be religious groups, whether it be just businesses in general, like you're an entrepreneur or owner or manager of a business. I want to give you a platform to come onto the show and tell us about your business, what makes your business unique, and what you're going to do for the listeners of the show to encourage them to stop by and just give you a chance and give you a shot. So I had a few talks with a few people about that already. My friend Earl and my other buddy Bobby. And I'm looking forward to having people on the show and discuss their businesses and some of their plans for the future. I'm really excited for that. In the meantime, everyone, I'm really looking forward to hearing all of you in person. Again, look for 2 episodes this week. If you haven't heard episode 16 yet, there will be 2 episodes. I can't wait to see you all in the streets. I can't wait to hear from you all in person. And hit me up on social media too. I can't wait to talk to you all. In the meantime, take care everyone. And as always, I'll keep talking if you'll listen.